You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Friday, November 12th, 2021. All week, we have been hearing stories from our new book, The Saints and the Call to Friendship with Jesus Christ. And we have been seeing how all of these things that we feel and experience, even if they're not very pleasant sometimes, but how a saint felt or experienced that, and how God used that feeling or experience to call them into friendship. Because that is what being a saint is. It's being a friend of Christ. Today we will be hearing our last story from the book, and it is the story of Blessed Miguel Pro. Now, Blessed Miguel Pro was a jokester, a prankster. He was very lighthearted, even though he lived during a very serious and dangerous time. Perhaps you have felt listening to this podcast or others, you have to be very serious to follow Jesus and to be holy, that he only wants people that are super old and super serious. Well, that's not the case. If you also like to joke around and have fun and be lighthearted, then know that God gave you that personality so that he could make you a saint. He gave the same personality to Miguel Pro, who was an incredible example of love and heroics for Christ. Enjoy the story. Father Miguel spotted the police officers as he rounded the corner. For a second, they locked eyes. Even though he was dressed in ordinary clothes, the police seemed to know that he was a Catholic priest, which in Mexico was illegal. Father Miguel pressed his hand to his shirt pocket where he carried a consecrated host of Jesus Christ. He begged Jesus to protect him so that he might continue to serve the persecuted Catholics of Mexico. Looking up, Father Miguel noticed a beautiful woman headed his way, a crucifix hanging from a chain around her neck. Quickly, he reached out, linked arms with her, and whispered in her ear, "I am a Catholic priest, and there are police following me." Then Father Miguel began to skip and talk loudly. "Oh, my darling girlfriend," he declared. "What a joy to meet you here on the street." Without missing a beat, the woman, a total stranger, quickly smiled back at the priest. "Oh, my love," she said, pulling him into a hug. The police officers looked at the couple, confused. Then they shrugged and walked on, leaving the happy couple behind them. Christians can seem pretty serious sometimes. Saints who were killed for their faith, scholars who labored over the perfect wording, and even our Lord Jesus Christ who suffered on the cross. Maybe it seems like Christians can't be funny or lighthearted. But that is not true. As friends of Jesus, there are certainly times for seriousness, but there are also times for laughter. Jesus smiled and laughed with his friends, and his great friend, Blessed Miguel Pro, shows us that being lighthearted, even during times of suffering, can actually help us bring the love of Jesus Christ to others. Blessed Miguel Pro grew up in Mexico City. In his class, Miguel was known as a boy who could always get you to laugh. He loved doing silly imitations of his teachers and drawing funny little cartoons. Miguel also liked playing practical jokes, especially on his sisters. God called Miguel to the priesthood, and he went to seminary in Europe. He studied hard and looked forward to the day he could return to Mexico to serve his people as a priest. But while Miguel was away, terrible things were happening in Mexico. A civil war broke out, and the new government hated the Catholic Church. They closed churches, killed priests, and made it illegal to go to Mass or teach the faith. But Miguel did not hesitate. He knew the people needed Jesus. He also knew that the light-hearted personality God had given him would help bring the love of Christ to the suffering church. Back in Mexico, Father Miguel secretly said Mass in the homes of the faithful. He heard confessions on park benches while pretending to read the newspaper, and he baptized wherever the faithful could gather. To travel from one place to another, he used all sorts of crazy disguises. He dressed as a beggar, a farmer, or a car mechanic. One time, he even disguised himself as a police officer. He had many close calls, but each morning he set out again, determined to bring the sacraments to the people of Mexico. Father Miguel was fully aware that one day the police would catch him. In prayer, he offered Jesus his life. One day, while saying Mass, Jesus revealed to him that his death was near. But even then, Miguel remained joyful. Shortly after this, the police arrested Father Miguel Pro, and he was sentenced to death by firing squad without a trial. Father Pro was offered a blindfold, but he refused. Instead, he raised his eyes to heaven, spread out his arms in the shape of the cross, and with his last breath he yelled, "Viva Cristo Rey," which means "Long live Christ the King." Blessed Miguel Pro lost his life simply because he was a priest and he refused to stop ministering to the people of his country. Through it all, Father Miguel Pro never despaired. Standing firm upon a deep friendship with Jesus Christ, he remained lighthearted and even happy. Likewise, when times feel dark, look to Jesus. Trust in him and smile, for he is good. Christ has conquered death and he reigns. Rejoice and be glad.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
You have just heard a story from our new book, The Saints and the Call to Friendship with Jesus Christ. This book has been a labor of love for our whole team for the past year and a half, and we are thrilled that it is finally coming out into the world. This book is jam-packed with incredible saint stories told in a way that is vivid, that will capture your imagination and will help you realize that what you feel and experience is really Christ prompting you to be his friend, to be a saint. The book is on sale for this week only. It is for a special price. So if you want to get in on the early bird pricing and see for yourself not only the great stories, but the incredible art, the portraits of these saints included in this book, then please grab your copy this week. You can find a direct link to get your copy in the notes for this podcast episode.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.